Muay Thai kickboxing was like the exciting boyfriend that you shouldn't be running after, and Jiu Jitsu is like the guy who you're always telling is like your brother, but eventually, they're there for you. So you got to settle, you got to, make the smart choice.
Well, hello again. This is Ron Williams doing another Women of Jiu-Jitsu interview. What got you interested in Jiu-Jitsu originally?
Actually, I had no interest in Jiu Jitsu.
I appreciate the honesty.
Yeah, my original first thought was to do Muay Thai kickboxing, and it was strictly for fitness. I wanted to do it to work out, get in shape, because it's just going to the gym and working out, lifting weights, running on a treadmill was not just for the aesthetic appeal, losing weight, burning fat. There wasn't enough motivation there. So I started doing Muay Thai kickboxing for a workout. Actually, my son, and he's here with me.
Oh,
that we're having a little time out at one of the local places here in Richmond. But he was doing jiu-jitsu, the youth program at the same gym that I had started in, and young. He was about 4.5. He was struggling a little bit. So I picked it up so that I could actually help him. And so if I could know what he was doing, then I'd be able to, and if I could, if I recognize what he was doing, then I'd be able to help him with it. Because, you see parents all the time who don't really know jiu-jitsu. They're trying to coach him on the sideline. And for me, that just wasn't really an option. If I'm going to, teach him how to ride a bicycle, I need to know how to ride a bicycle. So that was my motivation for becoming involved in jiu-jitsu in the first place. And it actually worked out really well. About 6 months later, we both entered our first competition. He was almost 5, and it's the cutest video of him competing. I share it every now and then in my memories because he's just so little and silly and running around, and he gets a guillotine. And of course, the other kid's crying, and the referee's trying to console the other kid, and my little boy walks up and he's like, "I got him." And the referee just kind of looks at him like, "You're a bad sport." But I mean, he was 4.5,
Oh, yeah.
But that my main motivation for jiu-jitsu was to help him. But even then, I thought that I didn't like it. I thought that I was going to be a Muay Thai kickboxer. And over time, I won most of my MMA fights with submissions. Over time, it just kind of became the thing that I was more naturally good at. In our gym, like, you can't not train and fight. So it was part of the requirement if I was going to fight MMA that I needed to train jiu-jitsu, even though I thought I didn't like it. But, it was something that naturally progressed. I kind of joke about it and make the metaphor of it's like Muay Thai kickboxing was like the exciting boyfriend that you shouldn't be running after, and jiu-jitsu is like, the guy who you're always telling is like your brother, but eventually, they're there for you. So you got to settle, you got to, make the smart choice.
That is such a good analogy. If it's okay with you, I'm going to steal that from now on, because I just, wow.
It's funny, but anyways, it just kind of, it stuck. And now I'm getting to the point where I don't really, like, fighting and everything is still fun, but I just don't enjoy getting hit. Imagine that.
I hear you.
I don't enjoy getting hit. I have over 17 fights across Muay Thai kickboxing, boxing, and MMA, and I get really nervous when I do striking matches. I don't compete the way that I train when I do matches that include striking. And with jiu-jitsu, I just tend to really be a more my natural self. So it's just really become a progression of like what I naturally have gravitated towards through the progression of my martial arts training.
Awesome. So how long have you trained in jiu-jitsu?
Well, I began in 2009-ish, but I didn't really get into it too much until later in that year. So I've been training about 10 years in jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai kickboxing.
Okay. And what style of jiu-jitsu do you practice primarily? Gi, no gi?
Our primary style right now at our martial arts facility is 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. We actually are the only 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu in Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
But we do have some, affiliates that we cross-train with too, and we have guys who are at other gyms who still come down, and they're ranked in 10th Planet under our head coach, Scott Elliott, like from Bowling Green, and we've got guys from Hazard, and then we've got guys from Louisville. So we have people that we are, interconnected with. But 10th Planet is our style, and we've actually been 10th Planet for about 5 years. Is it 6 years, 5 years? 10th Planet. My husband's here too. I think we officially went strictly 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu about 5 years ago.
Okay,
Before
awesome.
that, we were more like a CSW because my husband is actually also the head instructor of the facility. He got his first black belt in CSW, which is combat submission wrestling under Eric Paulson. So that's what we did at first, and so we did do gi then. Because I started in more of the CSW, and I liked the 10th Planet as well. And we're also like a Jeet Kune Do school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I really like to do both. I have never completely given up the gi, and our coach doesn't make us, even though he's a 10th Planet black belt, and that is what we primarily focus on. I still have the opportunity to train in the gi. He teaches at campus at EKU at the college here, and they teach it's a gi class, so I get to go train there. So I don't do it as much. Primarily, I'm 10th Planet, but I love the art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so I like both, and I feel they're both useful.
What's your current belt rank in both?
I am a 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. I have one strap. Maybe I have two. I don't know. I haven't looked at my belt in a week. But I'm a brown belt. I guess that's all there is to say about that. I got it last year in August, I guess, 2018.
What gym do you train at?
10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu Richmond. We've been 10th Planet Richmond for about 5 years, I guess, but we're actually celebrating our 25th anniversary as the AFS Academy of Martial Arts. So it's the same place, but that's the gym name, AFS Academy / 10th Planet Richmond.
Let's say you're traveling, or maybe you decide to move to a new area. What are some things that you look for in a martial arts gym when you're trying to find your next home base?
I've trained at a lot of different gyms all around the United States. And the head instructor, being very detail oriented is important to me. I do not enjoy a relaxed atmosphere. I enjoy a very intense atmosphere. I enjoy a gym that is a little more what I would call competition oriented. I don't care about how they belt or how often they're going to be belting. I'm very interested in like the training and the intensity of the training. How detail oriented is the instructor? Like, do you have competitors? At what level do they compete in? And those are the things I think that would be most important to me if I were going to train somewhere else. I've always been a little bit of a competitor at heart, and I also now have moved into more coaching, and I really, really enjoy having our people that are able-bodied go out and compete. And whether I get to compete or whether it's coaching someone else in competition, to me, it's like really, really important.
Okay. From your perspective, what is it like training in an overwhelmingly male-dominated sport?
When I first started, there was like one or two other girls, and I did not want to train with men because I didn't understand what I was looking at with jiu-jitsu. So I was fortunate enough that there was another girl there who trained and let me just work with her for the first month or two. And so I got to ease into it. I think that training with men is extremely important for if you're talking about self-defense. And I made a post about this the other day on Facebook. I go to campus and it's all white belts because everybody who enrolls in the campus class usually has never started in jiu-jitsu. I'm a brown belt, and if you watch white belts roll, if you watch people with no experience roll, like their intensity and we call it spazziness, but it looks almost violent. And so for me, even if I never trained, I would not be fearful or afraid or in any worry about, another me walking down the street. My concern, if I'm talking about self-defense, is men, obviously. And so to me, it's very important to train with males and to train even with new males now that I have all this experience, and just sometimes get that shock to your system of what it's like for somebody to really be going at you hard, grabbing anything they can to rip and pull and tear. Because the white belt inexperienced male is probably the closest to what you will get in a real physical altercation with a male with bad intentions. Not that white belt males have bad intentions, but they are more wild, I guess you could say, and that to me is very important if you look at jiu-jitsu from a self-defense perspective. So I think it's a good thing, but women's only classes I think are important for women like myself who, when we first start, we don't know what we're looking at, and we just really need to kind of ease into it and transition into what jiu-jitsu is until we're comfortable rolling with the opposite sex.
Okay. Are there any other barriers or challenges that you've had to overcome because of training in this sport?
When I first started, you would go to a competition and you'd be lucky if there was like one other girl there. Like I said, this was like over 10 years ago. So, there were times when I would go and there'd be like one other girl, and then they'd say, hey, you're going to go into the guys division, but you're going to be, one weight class lower, so that evens it out. And I've seen that happen a few times with girls that go to like a smaller tournament. They're like, they'll come and ask me because I guess I am one of the most experienced and well-known, I guess, like a lot of people know, at these jiu-jitsu tournaments we've always attended. Like, I have a lot of girls who know who I am because of the Bluegrass Women's Jiu-Jitsu Club and things. So sometimes they'll come and ask me, even if they're from a different school, like, what do you think? Like, there's no other girls here. Should I step into the male division?
Okay.
And so for me, it's that thing of like, yes, I've been here. I've been in this situation where there's no other women, and I've stepped into the male division. And let me advise you on, ask if you can go like, a weight class smaller than what you actually are, so it's a little more fair, but you still get the competition. Or, if you don't feel like the weight is close enough, don't do it at all, because what's the point in doing all this if you're going to get injured? So that's probably one of the hurdles that women kind of face in competition, is that there's not always a lot of competition out there because the pool is still small.
Okay. Do you have any awards or accolades or key wins that you can share with me?
As an amateur, I was the Warriors for Heroes 125 champion. That was a title that I had. I was the WMMA featherweight, I think that's 125 to 129, featherweight Muay Thai tournament champion. Trying to think. There's a lot of them. And those are just two actual championship belts that I can think of. I've got a lot of like tournament belts like in jiu-jitsu, but like they all run together because there's so many of them. I pro debuted for Invicta as in my pro debut for MMA, and fought Sajira, who's actually in the UFC now. I've actually fought a lot of the former. I've actually fought a lot of people who have moved on and up, and we've actually had 3 girls fight for Invicta from my gym.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. But no, I've got to fight for RFA. I've got to fight all over the country. I've had a lot of really good experiences. I've competed in the ADCC trials and just really traveled and had a lot of good experiences.
Did you ever feel pressured to compete by anybody?
No. No, the first time that I wanted to compete, it was actually my idea, because like I said, my son and I had been training, And I can't, there was a tournament that some people were getting ready for. And for me, it was this thing of like, we're doing the training. So may we compete with your team to see if, we can actually, because that's the real test. Can we use what we've been learning against somebody who's resisting that we don't know? And then after that, the Muay Thai fights came, and so my coach asked me if I would like to participate in that. But no, I've never really felt any pressure like you need to do this or anything like that. Probably much the opposite. There's I've had a really tough time. That's probably you said my biggest obstacle is I've had a really difficult time finding fights at my actual weight class of 125. And so I have put pressure on my coaches to let me fight in heavier weight classes, and that's not been very successful for me. So that's probably the gist of it is no, I put the pressure on them.
So real quick, just for those who may be watching this who aren't experienced in the mixed martial arts side of things, especially if you're on the amateur scene or there's not a whole lot of people on the professional circuit in your region, then it's very difficult oftentimes for people generally in smaller weight classes, but especially women, to find opponents. So so often, especially where I'm at in the Pacific Northwest, there's so many promoters like, oh, just go with this woman who's 10 pounds bigger than you, 20 pounds bigger than you, 30 pounds. Like, okay, hold on, well, time out here. There's that weird sense of pressure because there's not as many.
Yeah. We run into that with our own fighters, and that's why I tell them, like, especially in the beginning, because I do manage our facility now, I'll tell our fighters, let me talk to the promoter, because I fall victim to this myself, and the promoter's just doing what they're supposed to do. But they'll ask me for a fight, and I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss, but you don't want to be like, no, I'm you don't want to be viewed as like being chicken shit. And, so it's really tough if you're talking about like a real fighter. Like, it's really tough for you to make a smart decision, because for me, like, I'm a fighter. Like, I want to fight, and I like to fight, and I feel like I'm 10 feet tall, and you want me to fight somebody, like, let's do it. It's been against my coach's advice. Like I said, I put pressure on them to let me accept fights that I shouldn't have. And so I would say, if you can't say no, let somebody talk to the promoter for you. And a reasonable promoter will, not put too much pressure on you. Like, we have a promoter here in Kentucky named Hard Rock Higdon. That man is so awesome. Like, he doesn't put a lot of pressure on you. Like, he asks you if you want to fight. If you don't want to fight, then he's like, no problem. He actually doesn't mind if somebody talks for you. Like, I talk for a lot of our fighters, especially in the first fight or two, and he has no issue with that. He doesn't, like, if I say no, he doesn't, go back behind my back and like ask the fighter, like, hey, they're turning down this fight for you, and try to do any kind of backstabbing things. So working with somebody who is trustworthy and has your best interest at heart is very important. And I mean, you've hired these coaches for a reason. So, if they're telling you it's not a good idea, they probably have your best interest at heart. So I would listen to them, and don't feel pressured, because, good fighters fight in their weight class. Anybody who's fought, like, at high levels, they stick with their weight class. That's what you're supposed to do. We wouldn't have these weight classes if they weren't there for a reason. Professional boxers don't fight out of their weight class until they've literally beat everyone in their division. And then it's like, who else is there for me? Maybe I'll take this next step in this next test. But that's what fighting out of your weight class should be. Not, hey, I can't get a fight, but if you're beating the brakes off of everybody in your weight class in your area, then why not? But if you're not, if you're serious about fighting, save some money, get some sponsors, and maybe take a fight against somebody your own weight class in the next state over. Do some traveling if you really are serious about wanting that experience.
Have you ever felt intimidated about going into a jiu-jitsu
class? The gym I go to, I guess, has always been kind of intense. I understand why people get intimidated, but I have never really felt like overwhelmed by it, like I was going to get hurt or anything like that. Probably my biggest problem was being able to pay attention. Because and that's probably one of the things I didn't like about jiu-jitsu is that it's step by step, and all you do is move your hand from here to here, and like the whole technique changes. So I never felt intimidation as in this is going to be too overwhelming or too violent or anything like that. I maybe felt like, oh, this is going to be exhaustive. I'm going to have to pay attention, and I'm not good at that. But I can understand why people do, especially if they don't know what they're looking at. Intimidating as in, I didn't want to work with men. For me, it looked a little sexual. They're putting but I didn't know what I was looking at. They were putting their hands everywhere. They were just kind of going, and I didn't have a problem with the fighting. It was just that, like, I don't know these guys. They don't know me. I don't know their wives. And, I came from the country, and that just didn't look appropriate. So that was intimidating, I guess, but not from a standpoint of, like, someone's going to hurt me. I think the best thing that you can do about that, though, is talk to the person who's answering the phones or at the academy, and let them know your feelings. And if they have a poor answer for you, that might not be the gym for you.
Okay. Wow. People have given really good answers in the abstract, but that's the first really solid, like, concrete answer, advice-wise. That's really, really good advice. So, what has jiu-jitsu done for you? So, for example, increase your confidence, allowed you to feel healthier physically, stuff like that.
Well, I mean, when you start doing jiu-jitsu and you start learning these skills and making all these improvements, and if you start for like physical fitness, and you really find something you enjoy that improves your health and wellness, the great thing about improving your health and wellness is once it really takes hold, you start wanting to improve things outside of you. So, like, that was probably the thing that I noticed.
But first, a message from our sponsors. I say, just kidding. I don't have any sponsors around here at this point. It's a one-man operation. Anyway, my name is Robin Williams. I'm the CEO and founder of BJJ2 MMA LLC. I want to let you know that I spent in excess of 80 plus hours doing the research, the writing, the scheduling interviews with people, conducting the interviews, doing editing and other post-production stuff, as well as doing research into the things that people reference during the interviews. I can include links for folks who want to seek more information. I did all this outside of my night job, which is working full-time, as well as my training schedule. So all that to say, it takes a lot of effort to produce content like this, but I really do enjoy doing it. So if you want to support my work and you want to see more content like this in the future, I would highly encourage you to go over to bjj2mma.com/donate to learn more. Thank you.
After jiu-jitsu really became a big part of my life, and it improved my health, it improved my well-being, it improved how I felt about myself, then I wanted to start doing things to improve my surroundings. So, then it became this thing of, like, I became aware of, like, not only what I'm putting in my body when it comes to nutrition, but, like, what am I surrounding myself with? Who are the people I'm surrounding myself with? Are they positive influences or negative influences? And, even to the point of, like, I started wanting to change my light bulbs because they were more energy efficient and better for the environment and things like that. So I think that's the thing that, like, once you improve one aspect of your life, on the inside, you want to improve the outside aspects. And so, overall, it just improved my life in general about who I was surrounded by, my habits, my lifestyle habits, but in a sense of, like, mental well-being. When you're struggling on the mat and you make it through that, you find that you can, work your way through a lot of other things. So I think it really helps your mental well-being to be able to kind of get through that struggle and realize that jiu-jitsu can be a metaphor for life. Competition can be a metaphor for life. When you can win these little battles on the mats, then you can win little battles that you may be struggling through in life. And then finally, we have got to travel and do things and have life experiences. I worked a job and I worked, just to work and make money and pay for my house and pay for my car. And we were just existing. And through jiu-jitsu and traveling, I have discovered that I appreciate life experience and like getting to experience things way more than having things, and that has been very liberating to me as a person.
Wow, that's a really powerful stuff, by the way. So there's a very common phenomenon in our sport called the blue belt blues. So just out of curiosity, obviously you made it all the way to a brown belt with a stripe. So what keeps you coming back to train?
I don't think I've ever really, since I really started, taken off more than 2 or 3 days for training. I mean, jiu-jitsu for me, like finding jiu-jitsu for me was kind of like finding Jesus. Just like when it took hold, like I've never really gotten that backslid feeling of like I don't want to participate in this. I know that people get blue belt blues, but I can't really understand it. I understand, like, you get to a certain level, it's like you're working so hard to get, that next rank, and like this white belt, and you're a white belt, and like the blue belt is like, oh, this big goal that you have, and maybe they feel like they reached that next level and they finally accomplished it. But for a lot of jiu-jitsu rankings, it's going to take 2, sometimes 3 years. So I don't know if they just feel like it was too hard. I actually accomplished something that's enough. I really can't say, because even for me though, like the belt was never the enticement. I was really worried about getting my brown belt because I kind of knew it was coming, and I kind of didn't want it. Only because, like, when I got my purple belt, I kind of went through this thing of like I lost all my confidence and I didn't win anything for like a long time, a year and a half. Anything I did, I didn't win, and I was just like, oh, maybe I just didn't deserve this, or maybe I don't deserve this. And then I started hitting the stride where I was winning everything I was doing, and I was really doing well. So I'm like, oh man, like beating everybody at purple belt level pretty easily. Like, I hope that doesn't mean I'm gonna get my brown belt soon.
Yep.
And then it happened, and I'm very happy and honored that my coach felt, like I deserved it. But I just blue belt blues, and it's just not really something that I understand. I don't know why it happens. I never really felt that way. I never really felt like the belt or getting that next rank was like the goal. And maybe that was because I was involved in competition, and for me the competition was really important. But belts really aren't that important in our school in general. But we have had people drop off with the blue belt blues, so I don't know. Maybe it's that thing humans do where after 2.5 years they kind of drop off interest.
Oh yeah. After the training you've gone through so far, what is the advice that you would give yourself on your first day of jiu-jitsu, if you could?
When I first started, don't be such a ruffian, maybe.
Okay.
I've always been kind of, it's not that I wouldn't be as rough as I've always been. I like going hard. I like wrestling hard. That's probably one of the reasons I like competition. If I had some advice to give myself, I would probably say, going hard and training intensely is all fine and good, but you also need to focus on recovery. I didn't focus on recovery until it was, some injuries that just were so nagging that it was a have to, not a want to thing. So I think that would probably be one of the best things that people getting involved in the sport, especially in the competition side, could do for themselves is take their recovery time serious. And I don't mean not going to training, because even if you're not going to go intense, like, it's still important to get in there and move, but like stretching, eating properly, getting the right kind of sleep. You can't sit up all night and then go train early in the morning and expect to recover well. So really take your recovery seriously.
From your perspective, what do you think would help get more women and girls into our sport?
I don't think we need to do anything to really get more women and girls into our sport. The sport is there, and if you have good coaches that coach women on a level that's equal to men, and make an atmosphere where women are comfortable to come into their facility, women that are going to gravitate towards it will come.
Okay.
I don't, I guess that being said, like, if you want more women in the sport, like, make sure that they're comfortable there. Like, you can't be making sexual jokes and trying to mangle them when they come in, but at the same time, like, you don't want to handle them too lightly. Like, I don't think it's a good idea to patty cake them through and not really let them feel the experience of what it's like to roll hard or anything like that. But I think that would be for anybody, like any beginner, male or female. Maybe you don't want to let them roll for a month or so when they first come in, or things like that. But I don't think that really jiu-jitsu has like a major problem as a whole. The problem may be on individual coaches who aren't inclusive. I can't really say. The women that I train with work really hard to make really good inclusive atmospheres, and the only thing that maybe helps a little bit to get women involved is making sure that there are women there who are inclusive, and sometimes a women's only class. But just, I guess, your front runner of having a female there that is friendly and welcoming is probably one of the best things that can help other women feel comfortable to come in. I mean, if you come in and she instantly feels like not only does she not belong on here because it's male oriented, but the woman who's already there, maybe she's sitting up her belt, is also kind of like, oh, new girl. that could be a problem. But jiu-jitsu as a sport, I don't think is an issue.
Okay. What do you wish that male jiu-jitsu practitioners would know about female practitioners?
I think that men sometimes have an issue on what they think the intensity is supposed to be. But that's the thing where, like, having female training partners is wonderful. Sometimes guys go too hard because they don't want to lose to a girl. And, that's something that the coach needs to handle if he notices that a fella does have that issue. But we've never really had that problem on our mats because our coach handles that really well. Sometimes they go too light, which can be kind of patronizing. So, like, go competitively as if you were a person their size is probably the advice that I would give them. If you're a 200-pound male and you're wrestling with a 130-pound female, then, dial it down a notch to where, what if I were also a 130-pound female? But that would be true if you were wrestling with a 130-pound guy. You wouldn't lay your 200 pounds on him at the same pace. So
yeah, preferably not. Goodness gracious.
And for kids too, like, think of it in all realms of, like, I need to wrestle with them at the level that they're at, competitively, not smashingly.
Okay. I really want to show that everybody is human, even as low as a white belt or as high as a brown or black belt. So just, what is one embarrassing moment that you've either experienced personally or been a part of in your jiu-jitsu journey?
Well, I don't know that I agree that white belts are humans. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
But actually not, though. No, just kidding.
An embarrassing moment that I've had in martial arts. I can't think of one. Can you think of an embarrassing moment I've had in martial arts? Yeah, nothing that really stands out. I mean, I'm a funny person. I'm always kind of like being silly and goofy. But people tend to think that I'm hateful. They upon meeting me, they kind of think that I might be kind of intimidating or not very friendly. So that has always kind of been an issue for me. Like, I'm very friendly and very happy. And I don't know, like, that's probably, I mean, I don't get embarrassed really easily. I've fallen. I was in a tournament, and I was getting choked by a fella in one of my tournaments when I felt my sports bra started to come up, and so I just like flung back and pulled my shirt down. I don't know. I've never really had like a defining moment that I felt like that was like the worst thing that's happened to me in martial arts. Like, I've had a lot of really silly shit happen. I just keep on cruising through.
Who are some inspirational female figures for you? So ideally in martial arts or grappling, but any female figure is fine as well.
I didn't really know of a lot of women that were in martial arts when I first started. The first females that I knew to fight were Gina Carano and Chris Cyborg, and I actually dressed up for Halloween after that as a partner with one of my teammates for that one.
Awesome.
Yeah, I didn't really know of a lot of females in our sport. Started getting into it and like noticing that there were other female fighters. I didn't really notice any really big female jiu-jitsu people up until about, I don't know, probably 6-7 years ago. And one person that I guess that I took note of, I competed against her, was like Nikki Sullivan. And I think that she's really inspirational. We took different paths because like I met her when we were blue belts. We both just kind of gotten our blue belt. And she chose to stick with the jiu-jitsu path, and I went the MMA path. And I think some of the stuff that she does is really neat and very inspirational for the females around me. That's one of the reasons I like to bring her in for other women to train with, because she's really accomplished a lot for somebody coming from our area. So she's somebody I think that we can look up to as females in the sport of jiu-jitsu, locally in my area specifically. We have another girl named Roberta Samad, who's a black belt up in Ohio, who's fought for PFL. She came from Brazil, and she's just she's a really nice person on top of everything else that she's got going on. So just overall, I like meeting a lot of women in the sport, and one thing that I find just really inspirational about all of them is they're almost always such nice people, and always willing to be helpful and talk to you and give you good advice. And I just, the whole community is just, in my opinion, just very inspirational and inspiring, and it encourages me to want to grow and like help women specifically in my area as well.
Excellent. Okay. I'll mention there are actually a couple people that I've interviewed who specifically highlighted you during this section as, this is somebody who helped get me into the sport, who helped me along the path when I got in there, and I continue to look up to. So, just thank you, whether you know it or not. You've inspired other people already.
I hope so.
Continue.
I hope I always inspire and never discourage. That would be a real tragedy.
Oh, yeah. Imagine there's a little girl out there who may be interested in jiu-jitsu, but is feeling kind of shy about it. What would you tell her to help her get through the door and onto the mats for the first time?
Go out there and just give it a go. Like it's like anything else. You're never going to know if you enjoy it or not unless you try. And you can't just give up on something just because it looks scary. If you do that, then you're not going to have a lot of success enjoying things just in general in life. It's like taking that bite of food that everybody tells you is good, and you end up liking it. Give it a try, and if you just really hate it, then you don't ever have to come back. But just give it a go, see how it feels. Go at it with an open mind, and give it your best effort. And that's all that you can really do. Some of the best, most successful people in the world, like even if they don't enjoy something, they still give it their best effort. And that's how you're going to really find out if it's for you.
Do you know of any female-friendly groups or gyms or organizations that I can refer people to if they're curious, especially in your area?
Well, we have our Bluegrass Women's Jiu-Jitsu Club. That's something I started about 2 years ago. It's a network of all the women in Kentucky, and we've actually expanded to the Ohio Valley region, Southern Ohio, Southern Indiana. We have a lot of females, and we actually have a lot of black belt females that teach for us. It's always free. and you get to learn from a female who's a purple, brown, or black belt when we have those meetings, and get to roll and ask questions with women who have more experience than you. So that for me is very important, and that's one of the reasons that we do it. So that, if you ever have questions, we have private groups where you can post your concerns, and it's, female only, so that you don't have to feel like this pressure of a male answering with condescension of not understanding where you're coming from. And there's a lot of women with experience there. I know that they have like Girls in Geese. They do a lot of things, especially around Texas and Arkansas and places like that. I don't really know of any other organizations per se that have like in other areas, but in my area specifically, that's what we have.
Okay. Do you have any gear recommendations for female jiu-jitsu practitioners?
I thought you said gi, and I was gonna be like, yeah, take it off and put on rash guards and stats.
Yes. Sorry, I'm biased. I'm horribly biased.
Me too. Gear, personally, I love Six Chic Fightwear. Wendy Jarva does a lot of custom designs for me, and she has some really nice stuff. Recently I've started wearing some retro grappler stuff. Almost 40, and obviously retro grappler, he comes out with a lot of designs that are geared towards people my age, so that's kind of nice for me, and it fits well. Personally, I also like a lot of, and they don't sponsor me or anything, but 93 brand. They always have like female fits, and I like their keys a lot when I wear one. So those are probably my top 3 of brands that I really enjoy.
Okay. The intention with this project is to highlight the various women in our sport and have a permanent record that people can look back on later. So is there a website or social media or something that I can refer people to if they would like to follow you on your jiu-jitsu journey?
Yeah, all my social media handles are Gina E10P. It's GINAE 10P.
Excellent. And through the magic of editing, I will add that like here or here. See, I say all this now, and then probably I'm going to be so lazy later that I'll just put it in the description. But anyway. Okay. Well, I really appreciate getting the chance to speak with you and you sharing your perspective because I didn't want it to just be some of the people who happen to live in my area or just even regionally Greater Pacific Northwest. So it was really good to have a different perspective.
Well, with all that said, my name is Ron Williams. You can find me over at BJJ2MMA.com, and I'll see you on the mats.